Are you feeling lost and trapped in the same old routine? Do you need guidance turning those stumbling blocks into stepping stones, paving the way towards a vibrant life? Welcome to this empowering episode of asoulsquest podcast, where Omar and I embark on a transformative journey of self-discovery, exploring the boundless possibilities of guided transformation with the support of coaches and mentors. Stay tuned. How are you?
I am well. How about yourself?
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah, just going through the quest, right?
Just going to, you know, that's so funny you said it that way. In Spanish, there's that aquí en la lucha, right?
That's a very good one.
Damn.
Yeah, here in the fight, man. Here in the fight. Aquí en la lucha. Yeah.
That's right. So yeah, but no, in the quest, it's not necessarily a fight. You have your struggles, you have your challenges and obstacles, and you know, the normal shit that life throws at you.
Yeah, you know, and the interesting thing is like you have to be cognizant of it, you know, and then understand that it is a part of life, you know, and that it's a temporal thing. It does passes. I mean, he comes and then he goes. And that's something to always keep in mind. Yeah.
You have great moments, you have good moments, you have
bad
moments, but do you have joy throughout all of it? And we've talked about that in the past.
And it's hard.
It's very difficult.
It's hard to keep that same level of that state
of joy
on a constant basis, you know. And I think that's kind of like what's important for us to, you know, the topic of this episode, right?
Yes, it's a great pathway into what we're talking about. But of course, as usual, I have to start with a quote.
Go for it.
All right, I think this one's a good one. So this is by Marianne Williamson, and it takes courage to Let me start over again. This is by Marianne Williamson. And she says, it takes courage to endure the sharp pains of self-discovery rather than choose the dull path of unconsciousness that would last the rest of our lives. Isn't that deep?
No, that's actually pretty good.
I'm good at finding quotes, ain't I?
No, you're excellent at it.
You know, it is deep, though. You're right. I think it's powerful because it sends a really, really straightforward message. Like, how are you going to live your life? How are you going to go through your quest?
Yeah. So here's one of the things that I like out of this quote in particular, right? That pain of unconsciousness, right?
Yeah.
And I'm reading this book right now that was recommended by me.
By you?
Recommended to me.
Huh? That's hilarious.
It's really funny.
I caught that.
Yeah. It was recommended to me. And it's about consciously be aware of the emotions that motivate us.
Okay.
You know, because we are, as much as we are individuals, we also are a product of the collective, right? We talked about always the social conditioning and all that, you know, and those are states of mind that are within us. And most of the time we are very unconscious about those, you know, and as life progresses, right, we act from these points of views without truly understanding their motivation and the reasoning behind it. Some of them are, for lack of a better term, productive, that they propel us to excel within the scope of society, and some of them are counterproductive, which minimizes who we are as individuals. You know, so for instance,
give us a for instance.
Let me give you an example. For instance, right, in order to understand like why the pain of self-discovery is so important, right? So one of my pain points as an individual was always acceptance, right? So a lot of the mistakes and a lot of the challenges that I've confronted in my life have come from making decisions from the standpoint of wanting to be accepted. Right. So I drove myself hard. I was passionate about things because I wanted people to say, oh, wow, he cares, you know, and all this stuff. But that, you know, when I look at all that now at this age, when I'm going through my own personal struggles and challenges in this quest right now, you know, I'm looking at that, and in order for me to be more aware, discover more about myself, I had to truly dive deep and see what were the unconscious things that made me experience those negative emotions, or that led me to have confrontations with other people, or maybe have me being looked at as annoying or something like that, right? So you have to be able to dive deep, into those motivations to make sure that you truly discover who you are, and then to be able to shift it, right? Now, ironically enough, that was actually something that was brought up by a coach, about this stuff, and then cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the tools that you're using actually in order to really identify what those triggers, those things, and then to switch the behaviors in order to be productive rather than counterproductive. So that does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And just for clarity, cognitive behavioral therapy CBT doesn't necessarily mean that you have to see a therapist to use those tools and those strategies.
Correct.
They're really something that you can self impose, or it can be a guided, which is a lot of what we're talking about today.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's either or, it's harder too sometimes to do it on your own because you're not able to see it, so that's why a therapist, and now we're not talking about therapists in this particular episode, but they do play a major role in dealing with those things in the past and how they relate to how we're behaving now. And once you understand that shift, then you could actually start propelling into the future, which is what mentors and coaches do. Right.
So, and that's the whole point, is that mentors and coaches are a resourceful tool for the transformative process.
Yes. So
because the therapy is I guess what I'm trying to do is differentiate the two.
Sure. So therapists primarily deal with the past, right? It's almost as if you're deciphering the social conditioning that has unconsciously brought you to this point, right? And people will talk about trigger warnings, right? Triggers stemming from trauma, from, let's say, abuse, let's say from neglect. Emotional, physical abuse, unexpected things that happened to us as a childhood, which kind of like helped develop our personalities, and it's interesting because you could have two individuals facing a similar, let's say, the traumatic event or physical abuse in their lives, but those two people might actually come out completely different in the way in which they pursue their lives. Right. So it's interesting and it's so individualistic how we react, right, and internalize traumatic events. So a therapist they deal with that. They deal with that part of being able to understand the origin of the reasons of what we do, right? And so then that way you could become more aligned, more understanding why the reasons why you act the way that you do, and then be able to make some changes when it comes to that.
Like to create self-awareness.
To create the self-awareness, to be able to be more accepting of the individual that you are, kind of like looking at who you are as a person, and then living more from a true nature, right? A true nature as to how do you to feel good about yourself, and to be able to deal with those issues that stop you from thinking. There's also the need for sometimes chemical imbalances in your brain. If I have someone that has dealt with both anxiety and depression in their life, there is a difference when you begin to address those situations. There is a shift and a change that does take place. So you got to be, so that they play their role, so that's what a therapist does. A coach, on the other hand, let's just focus on coaching, right? Because that's one of the things that I do now. A coach, it's in essence what they do is that they shorten the gap between where you are now in relation to where you would like to be. So, for instance, I'm a life coach, which deals with a lot of the stuff that we talk about here in asoulsquest, and then in that aspect is really about helping people identify what their values are, their systems, their life's purpose, their innate skills that they have in order for them to chart a path for their lives, right? Now, as a life coach, my job is not to tell what that part is, but be able to facilitate the conversation using skills as active listening, powerful questions, reiterating. That way the person really creates a path as to where they want to be. So that's one aspect of what I do. One of my areas of expertise, luckily, is that of leadership and team development, right? So from a very young age, I've already spoke about, my experiences as a Boy Scout, being a Boy Scout leader and doing a lot of different things when it came to leadership and team development, and then incorporating a lot of that social and emotional component of interacting with people.
Right.
So my objective now is to be able to work with people in middle management and in management as to how, a leader should be, right? Most of our interactions as individuals incorporate a group. It's kind of like the dichotomy of our existence, right? So understanding leadership, understanding the essence of it, and how do you motivate and get a team to accomplish the goal, utilizing everybody's talents. It's one of the skills that I've developed. So if I'm able to teach somebody, an individual or a group, as to how to make that happen in a way that aligns the individuals in that group in order to accomplish that mission.
The collective,
right? So I'm shortening the gap for that group, that individual, for them to not have to spend all the years that I spent learning this stuff, not having to look at the good and the potential of what he has, and the potential of what a group and an organization could be when you're working in that dynamic that both the individuals and the collective are really clicking, right? But also to be able to help them navigate the toxicity from people that are not as aware, right? Because I've experienced that too. I know what it is to be a toxic. I know how it is to work with on people that are not without judgment, but people that just are process driven. There's so much to leadership.
No judgment taken.
No, there's so much to leadership.
Yeah.
Right. That I mean, that is what your doctorate is in. Right. So there's so much to leadership that and I think particularly now in this stage, in our stage in evolution and in the stage of where we are, it is so important to understand the relationship aspect of working with others, because, I've been in situations in which it is so easy for some people to be dismissive and just fire someone, right? Which in business, they will tell you to fire right away, right? But if you really think about it, did you spend the time developing this person, training, developing, coaching, supervising, delegating, right? Which is, one of the things that I use. Did you spend enough time doing that to be able to move a person from one point to the other? Did you have the patience enough, right? And you see a lot of the traditional bosses, right, kind of like using traditional methods, but the traditional methods haven't been working, and this is why we see the great resignation, the unhappiness that we feel in our work environments, because there's no correlation. So as a coach, as a life coach, my objective on that aspect is to align the individuals with their value system, their purpose in life, and then help them chart a path, which is what asoulsquest does, as to how they're going to live fulfilled life. And then from a leadership and team building standpoint, it's the idea of aligning the individual and the collective so that both are able to accomplish, both their individuals and their collective objectives, and I think that's what a coach does. Now, there are many different types of coaches out there. There's particular business coaches, HR coaches. You want to learn something. There is a coach out there that could help you how to do that. But the idea really at the bottom of it all is to shorten that gap. Think about somebody like me who's been in a leadership role since I was like 12 years old, right? And I'm 45 now. Think about if you could learn a lot of the stuff, take a lot of the stuff that I learned and condense that into like 8-12 weeks, so that you could go out of there and put it into practice and see if it works for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what coaching is in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I recently started working with a life coach, and I
shout out to Cindy.
Yeah, for sure. She's awesome. And I definitely have had some eye-opening moments with her. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it has been very, very, I'd like to be able to share more about it, but I haven't gone, I've only met with her just 2 or 3 times now. And so I can't really say because we haven't accomplished the goals. And the cool thing about the coaching process is that I feel like I'm in control mm-hmm. of the process. Mm-hmm. And so from somebody who is the coachee on that end of the spectrum, I feel like the fact that I'm in control, even though she is guiding me mm-hmm. through that process, makes this journey a little bit more compelling. Mm-hmm. And the discoveries that are happening for me and the eye-opening things that are happening for me. One thing that I've gotten from it that has been really interesting is that, you know, I don't, and this is vulnerability moment, is that I don't value myself enough or mm-hmm. think highly enough of myself. Mm-hmm. And she has really done a good job and has been effective at making me aware of that. Mm. Not that it's been addressed 100%, but I'm aware of it. And that's been an eye-opening experience. And so I think for people who are looking to be coached, either by you or anybody for that matter, that is a coach, or looking for those services, I think that this is a really powerful process for personal development and professional mm-hmm. development. Yeah. Personal more than professional, because I think when you personally develop, you carry that into your professional life, right? Mm-hmm. So it's been an interesting process so far, almost to the point where when I know I have an appointment with her, I almost feel anxious leading up to that, because I feel like, you know, what's going to happen? And I don't know with the people that you're coaching, if you've had that where they're like, hey, I got so much to share, you know, because there's this growth and this development that's happening. But I found myself doing that the last time. And even though I had this eye-opening revelation, here I was thinking I'm good. And then she did this boop. And I was like, oh man, she came out of left field with that, you know? Yeah. But there's a level of excitement mm-hmm. because you know that you're growing and that you're transforming. And that's the beauty of this whole process. So I don't, just from a coachee perspective, because I'm doing it now, mm-hmm. It's that if anybody values those types of things, coaching is where it's at. Yeah. So like, and somebody said this the other day, I don't remember where it was, because I'm taking a lot of different trainings and listening to a lot of different things, right? Coaching is a modality. It's like a way of being, right? And that way of being is that a couple of years ago, we did an episode on the meaning of education, right? Mm-hmm. And there's educare and educare, right? Mm-hmm. Educare is the instruction, mm-hmm. right? Like, this is what you have to do, right? Mm-hmm. So when you go to traditional medicine, right, it's a lot of educare. It's like you take this pill, you mm-hmm. take it for this time, and then we'll evaluate and see where you are. Like the formal way. It's a formal way of doing things, right? Then there's the other part, which is educare, right? Mm-hmm. So the educare, right? Mm-hmm. Which is induced from within, mm-hmm. right? Like bring out what's inside an individual, mm-hmm. Yeah, right? Mm-hmm. So what coaching does, and what I'm from the clients that I'm working with, what I'm seeing really through the methods of coaching, you know, which is really about asking a lot of powerful questions to really make you think. Yeah, right. It does. To make you think, to make you really redirect your frame of thought, mm-hmm. right? But it's asking a lot of powerful questions like that to bring out of you, right? Aha moments like you just had, mm-hmm.
right?
And just to pause for 1 second, when you say powerful questions,
yeah,
there are powerful questions on your side, but when I'm asked those questions, I'm just like, okay. And then all of a sudden these answers come out that are just like, ah.
And this is when it gets a little crazy, interesting, not crazy, but interesting to me, right? Because it's like, it's your soul. There's a part of you, a deep, like, part of you. And you could make it, again, it's like when you're talking about words like the soul and, things like that. I know they're very poetic and very metaphorical in nature, right? But there's a deep aspect of ourselves that is yearning to, number one, to be heard and to make sense of existence and make sense of our existence, right? So when you're getting an opportunity to really speak and being asked, it's like your soul is like, this is what I feel, and then being redirected. And I've seen it as someone that stands on the other end asking those questions, right? And somebody that's been, I have two great coaches, Ninu, and I work with Cindy as well, in which it's so good to have them ask you questions about what you think and giving you the encouragement, right? But when you're here on this side, you could see the person blossoming. You could see the transformation. You could see the excitement in their eyes. You celebrate like the beauty of them becoming more, and consequently they see themselves growing and moving forward and getting better. And that's a part that is beautiful to
They
to
see
me.
the client.
Well, I see them.
Yeah, okay.
And then they see it within themselves.
They see, okay, I got
So they
it. Okay,
see the
I missed
change
that.
within themselves.
They
like
feel it.
They
I
feel
would,
it.
yeah, I feel like instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And even after a session, it's almost like I need, like, how when you get home from work, you need like 30 minutes to just chill. I need a few minutes to be quiet, take it all in. And it's so much.
Yeah, and it doesn't. And again, it's like it doesn't feel like that you're progressing, but it feels like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to be able to say these things and then hold yourself accountable,
Yeah.
and then setting that target, setting that objective. And the thing is that as the individual sets that target, sets that objective, work towards that objective, sees that even in that objective that you're gonna go in different directions. Right. But then you're still in there and you have somebody that brings you back into there. Hey, listen, like, it's like the light post. Hey, stay clear of that. Look at this. Stay in your course. It's like, how do we get back to this? Because this is what you wanted to accomplish. So that modality of thinking it's a cool thing. It's a beautiful thing. Now, you and I right now are talking about the life aspect of it all, but there's also skill sets that many coaches do. I was talking to a friend of mine today about business coaching, right? And business coaching is an important thing, because if you do want to go into business, you do have to understand the processes, the matrices that it needs. What do you need in order to get there? There's processes when it comes to that. So the coaching, in essence, it's again, the point of it is to take it from point A from point B in a shorter amount of time. Depending upon what you're doing. Are you working on your individual life? Are you working on your spiritual life? Are you working on your business life? Are you working on your relationship life? All these different things that that you could learn from someone that has done it. Right?
And that's where I see the primary difference in terms of coaching and therapy. Because in therapy, and I've seen a therapist before,
sure,
it wasn't like that. It was, okay, tell me a little bit about yourself. Okay, tell them about myself. And then while there are goals, you're trying to overcome whatever that issue that has been identified that you feel like you're struggling with. So I'm identifying the issue. I'm saying, for conversation's sake, I have anxiety, or I feel depressed, or I argue with my husband all the time, and I don't know how to do it. I'm right and he's wrong, but we're going to focus on that, right? And they're going to ask questions and they're going to try to solicit a solution, right, for me. And they're going to give me homework and they're going to tell me, go and do this. When your husband does this, do this, whatever. Coaching, in my experience so far, has been similar to that, but I feel like it's more robust. It's more whole.
That's a good question, because I've been to therapy before, right? As well. And, and I had some hit and misses.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what, yeah.
Like they said, and I'm sure that you have the same thing with coaching. So, I like learning about the different psychologists and all this type of stuff, right? So I always like Carl Jung's approach, right? Because he did ask a lot of questions, right? And he did believe somewhat that the answer was within the individual, and I think that's one thing that you see the blending of things happening, right? It's like an evolution and of people just willing to kind of like conversate and connect, right? And then share through their experiences, share how they overcame a certain thing, and that has power. This is one of the reasons why we do this, because stories have power, and stories are transformative, right? And when you have someone that has experienced something similar or has overcome something that you're struggling with, and they come from a place of love and care and understanding in order to guide you through it, there's something to be said when it comes to that, and sometimes some people may feel that, going to therapy is very technical, and there is some technicality with it because you're dealing with a lot of stuff in the past, so you have to decipher all this stuff, so coaching is just about, finding something and wanting to get better at it and then improving it and shortening the time.
Well, that's what I guess that's what I mean. It's not as technical.
Yeah,
it's with a coach, it's more organic.
It's that will be the word.
Yeah, organic. That's what it is.
Be the word,
because sometimes, I mean,
personally, and this is us speaking. That's us speaking personally, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, they both have their place, but in our opinion,
yeah. Because I think, like, like for example, my last, even when I'm gonna go into an appointment, I don't know what do I want to talk about. And it's a very organic conversation. We just start talking, and then all of a sudden it's this, and it's like, okay, well, let's talk about, what would you like to talk about today? That kind of thing. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. Let me tell you some things that's happened, and this is the stuff that the challenges that I've faced. And I think that really helps, because you end up identifying these challenges and whatever that you didn't know could be talked about, and that you could identify a new way to look at that. And I think that's the interesting thing about coaching, and the benefits of it.
So there's like, so I've taken the part 1 and part 2 of the ICF, International Coaching Federation, certification, right? And one of the modality, or one of the code of ethics that we follow, one of the things that we follow is, the client is always in control.
Which is what I said earlier.
The client is always in control. They get to choose a direction in which they want to take the conversation. So that's always a focal point of it all. Which is like the individual's in control. And again, it's like when you look at certain aspects of life, right? It's about the beauty is the individual. The beauty is in the individual. The beauty is in that individual being able to follow through that, be able to do those things, and then have someone there that kind of holds them accountable, but also that helps them through the whole journey and celebrates them as well. Okay, good. I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask you, so what do you do with people that identify something, they go through this, this is what I want to talk about this time? Like, can you just take us through like a sort of a sample? Sure. So like the method that I used, right, is based from the Coach for Life Institute. And the idea is that the most important thing is for you to find out what your value system is, right? And we talked about values and the importance of them, right? Because whatever decision that you make in life and whatever path you follow, if your values are not aligned with you, you're going to feel that disconnect, right? And I felt that, and I could tell you that from experience that one of the values that I always cherished was freedom. But in my quest for freedom, I wasn't 100% sure what it looked like. I just wanted to be free and do whatever. But it also meant that if I was passionate about something, and I'll give you this example, right? Okay. So that you can see how a value is so important to understand, right? So freedom I like freedom in terms of being able to be creative, right? That flexibility to create. Can I work in a group? Absolutely, I have. But I also know that constraints don't work very well for me, right? So inside of us, we talked about the adult, the child, and the parent, right? Transactional analysis, like the different personalities that we have within ourselves, right? So I'm much like the child, right? And that's what freedom is to me, the ability to create, the ability to see something problem solving without having to go through the bureaucratic methods to doing things. Mm-hmm. So there lies the conflict that I've always had in organizations, because to solve a problem, you have to have umpteen meetings, right? You have to...
that could have been an email.
That could have been an email, or it could have been... You can't just fix situations. You can't pivot. Because in those institutions, you have your managers and you have your HRs and you have your that need to keep things process based,
methodical, yeah,
right. Mm-hmm. So if I did it, and again, I didn't realize this until more recently, right? That me being free in a system that doesn't allow for that, and always having to feel conflict within those confines has always had an adverse effect on me when it comes to my work environment. Mm-hmm. Right? I've having into conflicts with other people, not really being understood, not even being accepted, because it's like, why are you trying to change this now? Why can't we just keep doing the same thing? We've always done it this way. So like you hear those things, right? Mm-hmm. But it's because there's a different personalities and different functions of individuals within the organization, and you have to have a leader, right, that is strong enough to understand the capabilities of each individual, right? And how do I align this in which we could benefit? Because again, it's like being creative in a business is something that is important. Mm-hmm. Because if not, the business stagnates. Because the people that maintain the business, they don't care about growth. They don't care about all this stuff. They care about making sure that the business operates and it stays operational. Right? Mm-hmm. But the growth, the creativity, the essence of it, is kind of taken away. So if now that I know that, I have to be more selective about the things that I do.
Right.
Because
professionally,
because does it allow me the creative freedom to be myself within the confines of the mission, obviously, because you can't just go willy-nilly and do whatever you want, but of course. It is within the confines of the mission of what it is that we're trying to accomplish, Mm-hmm. So that's an important thing. And so in my coaching, I make sure that I focus on that, on identifying individual values, because then that you go into a situation and say, okay, this aligns with who I am as a person, as an individual. So I'm able to feel that I belong, mm-hmm. right? So I feel that.
Right.
But things change and the cycles change, right? So sometimes you're going to go into a place and then you're no longer going to align because maybe the organization as a whole pivoted in a different direction. So you're no longer aligning. So what are you going to do? Try to force an alignment and adjust, or find something different. So you got to be aware of these changes, right? Within you as an individual, but also within the structure of working as a group. Or interacting with a group. Mm-hmm. So first is that, once you understand that, right, then you're pretty good, then you start focusing on what is your life's purpose, what is the vision that you have for yourself, and working towards that vision. And then also identifying what your skills are, because a lot of us don't think that we have a lot of skills. Right. We think that our skills are the skills that we particularly learn from school, the technical skills from a profession and this and that. But there's also a lot of other innate skills that we are naturally gifted with. So identifying those three things, right? Mm-hmm. So your core self, you have a good direction as to a good starting point as to where you are. Now the next thing is creating that vision. Mm-hmm. Where do you see yourself? Why is it important for you? How does it make you feel when you live from that point of view? So once you understand that, then you can start working towards that on a regular basis. So it's a modality of thinking specifically about you, right? But also about you, your future self, and also in the confines and the interactions that you have with the groups that you're associated with, either it be with family, either it be with work, with friends, relationships, in all different aspects of your life. How do you get the most fulfillment out of all those things?
Right. Right. Okay. Well, I know that we could talk every episode. We can talk forever, but we do have to come to a close.
Absolutely.
So today we discuss the importance and benefits of seeking the guidance of coaches and mentors in our lives and how using them will benefit our quest. So the following are, switched it up a little bit. These aren't necessarily strategies, but just identifying benefits.
Okay.
For using coaches and mentors in your quest.
Sure. So number one, expert guidance. Coaches and mentors bring a wealth of expertise to the table. Their insights, honed through experience, provide you with a clear roadmap to navigate challenges and opportunities, saving you time and energy on trial and error.
Which is what you talked about with the closing of the gap.
Exactly, minimizing that gap.
Yeah, okay. Or minimizing it, yes. Okay. Yep. The second benefit is personalized approach. Guided transformation is like a tailor-made suit for your growth journey. Coaches and mentors customize their strategies to fit your unique needs, ensuring that every step you take is aligned with your goals and aspirations.
Exactly. I mean, it's really a focus on the individual.
And you just literally just said that it's about you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 3, accountability and motivation. With a coach or mentor by your side, you have someone who holds you accountable. They provide the gentle nudge or the motivating pep talk you need to stay on track, ensuring that you consistently strive towards your desired outcomes.
That's good. Number 4, expanded perspective. A fresh pair of eyes can often see what you might have missed. Coaches and mentors provide an external perspective, helping you uncover blind spots, challenge assumptions, and consider new viewpoints that can lead to breakthroughs.
And number 5, a confidence boost. As you witness your progress under their guidance, your self-confidence soars. Coaches and mentors empower you with tools, skills, and strategies, equipping you to face challenges head-on and build a strong foundation for lasting personal and professional growth.
There you go. And so, of course, realizing these benefits and you putting them into your transformation process will enhance the support you receive from coaches and mentors, making your journey towards self-improvement and success even more effective and more rewarding.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Comment below with your thoughts and additional ideas, and remember to stay connected by sharing and subscribing. For more information, visit our website at asoulsquest.com.